sounds. So up nice and tall. And relax your shoulders. Relax your face. Forehead, your eyelids. You can draw the low belly in very gently, very subtly. And then just open your awareness, take in all the sounds around us. And now push all that stuff to the peripheral, into your peripheral awareness, and bring your focus now to the body. Completely still the body. And then come to your breath. And just take 10 or so breaths, long exhales. All right, and so we'll do a little karma meditation that I just learned yesterday. So think of, in the morning today, the best thing that you did, the most selfless thing that you did for somebody else, the best good deed. So just go through your morning and then pick out the top thing that you did for someone else. Or even yourself, maybe. If it meant like taking care of yourself in some way if you weren't around anybody else. And then go to the afternoon. Think of all the kindnesses you did this afternoon to somebody. And pick the top one out of that bunch too. The kindest thing you did. Biggest positive karma. And then now come to the night, this evening, and find the best kindness thing you did this evening. All the many acts you did today. They don't have to be big things, just small acts. And so the first two laws of karma is that if you do something, you'll get something back. Second law is karma grows, So one small deed done today will grow exponentially in the next few months, few weeks to few months, and produce a big result. And the type of deed, of course, the karma that you do will create that type of result for yourself. So bring to mind your morning deed, and then just imagine that seed in the mind growing for the next few weeks, few months, and growing exponentially. And just try to imagine what a result would be for that. Like, so if it was something like, for me, like my dog's been limping, so I was like checking her out today, making sure she was okay, helping her up and down the steps. So that small deed, if I play that out and the potential of karma growing in the mind, that could produce, months of me feeling healthy, feeling good in my body, not having harm come to my body. So in that same idea, just use your imagination. Try not to have limits. The bigger you can think, the better. But just imagine what that deed that you did in the morning would turn into in a few months if taken care of properly. And this is part of the taking care of properly process. So just don't use your imagination and be big with it. Don't limit it. And just imagine how it would play out in your life, what events would happen. And then move to the afternoon. So your big afternoon deed, for me, it was just as simple as I was on the phone with a coworker and I just asked how they were doing. Just something as simple as that. Like, everything was really business. I just took a moment and asked her how she was doing, and just her whole demeanor changed. And I just took that moment to maybe take her out of her stress of her day. So karmically, the result of some kind act like that could be, me just feeling much at peace, feeling like people care about how I feel, people wanting to help me feel better, etc., like that. So think of your thing, and again, just see what that would look like. And remember that karma grows. So small acorns grow in the big oak trees. And one moment, like 1 second of putting your mind towards somebody else, puts that seed in your mind, which can last which can create a result that would last months. And then let's go to the nighttime. So for me here, this was just taking a moment before I left and making sure the house was clean for when Lauren got back, because she had a stressful day and she had to do the dishes and stuff like that. I know would stress her out more. So small act like that, what would that look like? And when it produced its result in a few months if taken care of properly, maybe just weeks, a few weeks of me feeling really peaceful, at peace, content, not stressed, nothing around to stress me out. So in the same sense, think of what that is for you. Now going back to the first one of the results of karma is that you'll have an environmental result. The world that you live in, the environment around you will also change according to that karma that you create. So now you had your, what it would come back for you, but think about that deed and what you did and how it would affect the people around you. You know, the small kind acts for me, taking care of my dog's health. You know, maybe I see less sick people around me, less people feeling achy, more healthy people. And then even get, you know, really big with it and think of a whole world full of people that their bodies no longer break down. Maybe a cure for cancer comes out. So just imagine what it would look like in your world. In the afternoon, seed that you planted. For me, it was taking time to have concern for somebody else. So, especially in this world right now, I think that's what we need a lot of, people having concern for others. So imagine, for me, it would be when that seed ripens, a world full of people coming together, caring about one another. And then finally, the evening, for me, was having consideration for the peace of mind of Lauren. So what would the environmental result look like? You know, less people stressed out, people more at peace around me, more content. And then let's come back to breath. We'll take 3 deep breaths, long exhales. And after you're done, open the eyes. Stretch, crack. I really like that I don't know, how are you?
I like
Nice,
that,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I prefer the death one, but that's my second.
Okay, we could do that, let's go. No, it's really nice, and it's part of that, the 4 steps that we were talking about before, the 4th one being rejoicing, which is really the fertilizer that makes those seeds ripen quicker and bigger. So the more mindfulness you can bring, the more awareness you bring to those good seeds you're doing, and just imagining what it would look like, ripening, the more power it gives them to ripen in that sense. So it's really cool. And in terms of yoga, there's a Tibetan word for it is Lum Sen Jupa Jipa. And basically where you put the mind, the prana goes, where the prana goes, the mind goes. So this has to relate with chakras and prana. But just when you bring your mind to certain deeds that you do, certain karmas that you do, it injects prana into them. Prana makes them grow bigger. Because where you put the mind, the prana goes. So it's an interesting idea. You can think of the prana as almost like the fertilizer for it. So that made sense. We went over before the ripenings of karma, right? The 4 laws of karma. That wasn't unfamiliar, was it?
Mm-hmm.
That karma is definite. You do something, you get a result back. Karma grows. You can't get a result if you don't do an act. And if you do an act, you can expect a result. So they're the 4 laws. So if you do something, you'll get something. If you don't do something, you won't get something. They're the last 2. So you can't expect to, for example, have financial security if you're stealing all the time. If you're generous with your time and your money, then you will have security in your life, that kind of idea. All right, let me pull this up. So I thought really briefly we go through this. These results of karma, because we only did some of them last time. Let me see. Okay. I don't know if this is going to be working out, but we'll see. So this is just, I think I sent this to you all, but this is just a nice list of, and it's probably going to be really hard to read, but I'll go over them. A nice list of karmas. And we went over, let's see. So yeah, so this is kind of what we were just doing, was the personal result and the environmental result. Let's see. And I think we just went through the first 4 of them, the lying. Yeah, so the personal result for lying, well, lying, let's just define lying as giving someone else a wrong impression about what you've seen, believe, or know, unless it would save someone's life or prevent real suffering. If you lie, you get something from, the benefit comes from past good deeds and not from the lie. So the personal result of lying is no one believes what you say, even when you're speaking the truth. And environmental result is your work in cooperation with others fails to prosper and people around you do not work well together. Everyone generally is cheating one another and is afraid. And there are many things to be afraid of.
I like the word you cried wolf.
Yeah. So, the positive side of lying is speaking the truth. So you can think if I speak the truth, then people will believe what I say. The opposite will be true with these. So these are stated in a negative sense. I call them the non-virtuous up here. So the virtuous would be speaking truth. And environmentally, you would always hear truth around you. You want to have people lying to you, for example, and people will just be very honest with you. Would be the positive side of it. Divisive talk, splitting people up with your talk, saying things to alienate or separate 2 different people, regardless of whether or not your words are true, causing one person to like another person less. It is usually subtle, like in your tone of voice. And I think we even did this one last time. So personal result, you lose friends easily. People around you are always fighting with one another, and people around you have an undesirable character. So, and then environmental, the ground you live in is split up, uneven, covered by crags and gullies, highs and lows. Travel is difficult. and you are always afraid that there are many things to be afraid of. So I would say this pretty much sums up the United States right now, right? What do you say? I mean, you have a lot of this divisiveness, you know, just from the presidential thing and these two sides of the party. And then it's just, so this is the cause of seeing this in the world comes from divisive talk. And it seems obvious, but sometimes like it's good for even me to like look through these. I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. You know, like I would see like all these people, right? You know, like with all this racist stuff right now, it's like people are being split up. You know, we're seeing this big split between people as opposed to coming together. So the cause of that comes from divisive talk in your speech, what you're doing every single day, you know, in the subtle ways of, and this one's hard, you know, especially in our society, but it's very subtle. And you have to be careful because the same thing is true with these negative deeds, that one small thing you did today, you know, in a few months, that can grow into a big, you know, can grow into like one small unkind thing. Unfortunately, you say something unkind that's split. Like yesterday, this one kind of hit me in a very subtle way yesterday. And you might even laugh by thinking about it, but I was thinking that was pretty divisive. So my little neighbor was over and we were just having fun and we were wrestling, and he's only 5 years old, his mom and dad were. And he got really sweaty, you know, it's just like really sweaty. He starts like rolling all over me and the dog. And I said, get off of me, you're so sweaty, get off of my dog because you're so sweaty, right? And he started crying and he ran away. Like he took like offense to it, right? So like I was only joking, but in, you know, speaking in that kind of sense, it was kind of divisive what I was doing. It's really no difference in the sense of, you know, saying you're a different nationality and get away from me, I don't like you, and saying you're smelly, get away from me, right? I mean, even though it was a joke, but it's really, you know, these things you have to be mindful of if karma is true, if this stuff is true, and every small, because it really disturbed his mind, you know, by saying that. It wasn't my intention, but that put a seed in my mind for sure to have more divisive, because I could look at that and say, yeah, that was being divisive even though I was joking. And I think it's built into my personality that to be divisive in my speech is part of my joke, my personality, and it's a bad habit, you know. You know, and you can argue with that, but you know, if it's the potential it can harm somebody, but you know, because even if your intention is pure, you know, that's 90% of karma. But you know, if the person gets upset, like I wasn't expecting to get upset by that, but you know, like even just like, I don't know, guys usually, or I don't know, just growing up and a lot of my friends, just a lot of like crap talk and, you know, about one another. And I don't know if it's just guys in general. But
No.
yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking maybe more harsh speech, you know, where you'll say, hey, what's up, asshole, you know, like, and that kind of stuff. But
There's this older woman we work with this older woman, and we try to avoid her at all costs because, you know, you walk by someone and say, how's it going?
yeah.
Let me tell you, I put the muffins in and it said 350, but they burn. I think I was following the high altitude. You're just in like, oh my God, she's doing your whole morning.
Yeah.
So a lot of my coworkers would say, Judy's counting.
Yeah.
And they mean it really because you don't want, because there's no way you can just say, hey, how's it going?
Right.
Oh,
I know
well,
exactly where you're
you
going.
know?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing, like every once in a while, okay, she's coming, so you can prepare for it.
So you would have to like be careful there, because that kind of speech saying to somebody, dividing people, and like, don't, you know, watch out, she's over there, you don't
Right.
want to be around here. That's divisive speech. That is divisive
They're not
action.
being mean, they just.
They're not being mean, but they're not bringing you together.
They're not bringing us
Right.
together, you don't have to.
So karmically, you would have to say that by her telling you not to go near her, and for you having somebody just talk your ear off for hours, you know, they're not related.
Just a minute.
Or a minute, they're not related, you know.
Right.
If you have somebody talking your ears off, because I just had this experience 2 days ago with an old neighbor that stopped by. And he's just one of them guys, you know, great guy, but he just talks and talks and you can never get a word in. It's just like, listen to me, listen. And it was funny because I was just listening to a teaching today and he was talking about this exact case, and that one moment of interrupting somebody when they're speaking, one moment, one small little seed of doing that will create a karma in the future of having somebody just talk your ear off for hours, you know, and you never be able to get a word in, because that small little seed of you interrupting somebody when they're trying to say something creates the karma, if karma grows, to have just someone just nonstop and you can never get a word in. So karmically, you had to say it's coming from that type of speech. So for me, it's like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, that happens all the time, you know. We always want to just hear ourselves talk, you know, especially maybe here. Not that I necessarily want to hear myself talk, but I want to obviously give you opportunity to talk if you want to talk. But, you know, just in life, you know, we just, it's
I have a neighbor, and he's the nicest guy. But I said to my husband the other day, I'm like, he is the biggest moocher.
Yeah.
He's like always mooching off of people. And then I went, oh, where am I mooching off of people? I'm not a moocher, you know?
It's small ways. That's
And it wasn't hurting him, but it was still,
yeah.
you
And
know.
one of my neighbors always asks me about his flowers. I don't know. It's like, is this a rhododendron or a gladiola? I don't know. And then my other neighbor said, listen, you better go talk to him. He thinks you're really being unfriendly. I said, why? He thinks you work in a nursery. And I said, I did work in a baby
Oh, that's
nursery
funny.
for 10 years. And he thinks that you know these things and you're just not telling him.
Yeah.
So I went over and I said, you know, I don't work in the nursery anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and he was saying, didn't you used to work at Gaudio's? It's like, do you remember Gaudio's?
Mhm.
I said, what? You know, so- and then I
funny.
said, oh no, sir. I said, I've never worked in a nursery. I mean, I have, but not that kind of
Yeah.
nursery. But I felt so bad that he really thought I was
Yeah.
a bit of a, and that was what it was, rhododendron or gladiola, something like that.
So I would say we all have to look at
Yeah.
this, you know, I mean, in particular me, because I know this has been a big habit for me over the years. And like, I lost all my friends at once. Like I was in a band for, you know, for, I don't know, it was like 10 years, 7 years, something like that. And like all my friends were based around that. And then the band broke up and then I just lost everyone in my life. It was really strange. That's right before I got into studying the Dharma. And then I started I lost like a best friend that I went to high school with, you know, like, and we started the band together and then he was kicking me out of the band. So I seen this huge divisiveness, which is Walt, that sits here now. You know, he's come here the first few times. So I started working out when I started learning this. I was like, oh yeah, like for like years, this is all we would do to one another. Like he's a jerk. Don't listen to him. Do this. Don't listen to his idea. It's no good. You know, this guy sucks. Let's fire him. You know, it's like all this kind of stuff. And once I started becoming mindful of it, and it was really a bad habit. Slowly it started to come back together, and eventually the band got back together and we did like some shows together. And then Walt wound up buying a house across the street from me. We became like good friends again, you know what I mean? So it's like